Hello guys, welcome back. I recently finished building the biggest ship I have ever built, and it's already on workshop. You can check it out if you want. I did make a video about it already where I just showed it off a bit, and I promise you I would also make a video where I show you how I build it with all the different stages. And I can tell you it's a lot. Like, this isn't even nearly all of them. There are also some weird ones like this giant one here. And in total, this is all of the progress stages. I have 340,000 blocks and 1.3 million PCU in here. I did have to cut it apart a bit in the video, so it would run at more than like 5 FPS. Right, let's not waste any more time and get right into it. If you've seen my last video, then you might have already seen this ship. It's the previous largest ship I've ever built, and I did always really like it. But it's of course terribly outdated, and I want to build a new ship that's just overall bigger, better, prettier. But I thought, why don't I start with this ship and just try adding some stuff to it. So first thing I tried out was just add a bunch of wings to it. And I did really like that. It came out great, and I thought I could work with this and build a new ship based on how this looks. So what I did was I just took the cross section of it, of that ship, and as you can see, it looks horrendous, really. Like, I don't know what this looks like, but it looks weird, like a totem pole or something. And yeah, I realized I would have to basically change everything, but the wings, I like them and I kept them where they were. So basically what I did was just add a bunch of blocks everywhere on the sides and just give it a lot more mass, make the whole body of the ship a lot bigger. I still thought this needs to be even bigger, so what I did was just add a bunch of blocks everywhere on the outside, made it a bit longer, a bit wider, and at this point the silhouette I thought was quite good, and so I started adding blocks on top of it, just making it a bit thicker, putting it into the third dimension. And you can already see here I basically like separated out the wings, and this is what in the final ship also is differently colored from the body. And basically stays like this the whole time. Then I just piled up some more blocks, right? Just make it actually like a 3D shape, so that in the next step I could finally start adding the armor panels, which I already knew from the beginning were going to be the central part of the ship and what really gives it its shape. Pretty off, I started just placing a few basically symmetrical around the center of the ship, which does look pretty nice, but I wanted to try out a few different things too. So the next thing I tried was to essentially give the whole ship like a sort of taper with these armor panels, make them narrower at the front and then wider at the back. And I think this works really well. It gives the whole ship a lot of shape and makes it kind of pointy. I like that a lot, and so basically kept that the whole time. But of course I did change the armor panels a lot, like every single step they change. Most of them change, or at least a few blocks do. Yeah, next up I added some more panels in the back, but these are really the small, not so important ones. And then, as I said, I changed them like pretty much every step. Here I just made the front ones a bit thinner and try to give them a bit of like an overlap. I always try to like have them sort of overlap, but at the same time still keep a gap between them. For the next one, I finally started adding like a little dummy bridge in there, just like a little brick where the bridge would be later on. It doesn't have to be there already, I just need to like reserve the space basically, so I don't end up putting something else there. And as you can see, the armor panels again change shape, like pretty much every different version. Then I already started putting in some thrusters, not really putting them in, just seeing where they could fit on the ship, where I do have space for them. I always do this quite early so that I don't run into the problem that in the end I have no space for any functional blocks and that it like looks pretty but it can't do anything. So I always start this pretty early. And then the next step, the best of those thrusters, I already like buried them a little bit into the shape here in the back and also a few on the sides. Not all of them, but at least a few where I thought they would look quite nice. And then of course, as you can see, I already put in a lot of turrets. But I did realize like this is not enough. It looks like a lot of turrets, but really it isn't. And I wanted to have a lot more still. But just adding more turrets here would have looked terrible. Like it already looks like they're just sticking out everywhere. It's a bloody mess, and I really need to change how I place the turrets. So what I tried out for the next version was to just place them in a nice orderly row along the side of the ship between the wing and the armor panel. And this makes up for really a lot of turrets. And I think despite it being more turrets, it does look a lot better than the previous version, where the turrets are just kind of scattered all over the surface. As you can see here, it's just missile turrets because I built this before the Warfare 2 update. Now for this next version, I basically just built even more turrets, right, and basically made the thrusters in the end a bit more final, just gave it a bit more of a finished shape. It's not very interesting, but you know, just properly put the thrusters into the shape. And this little wing here is also new. I just added that. Looks nice, I guess, but it's just a little detail, really. And then I finally put in an actual bridge and not just a placeholder block. I mean, I guess this is still a placeholder. It's just a bunch of blocks still, but they look a bit more like a bridge. Since we have so many windows now, you can basically build anything with them. I always end up building the bridge out of blocks first now, and then only later start putting in windows. Because whatever you build, it basically always works, so I just shape it with blocks. It's just faster. I also wanted to have a little hangar here, so just place a few hangar doors, had some space left over there. It's nothing big, just for like a shuttle or so. And this is already the final version of this first stage. At this point, I knew there were going to be new turrets for the Warfare 2 update, and so I wanted to wait for those turrets before I continued building. Before I forget, here in this last version, I also decided I want this to be able to fly on a planet, so I added really a lot of thrusters on the bottom, as well as some custom landing gears. I did actually initially try out the default vanilla landing gears, but in the end I realized they are just hideous, so I built some custom ones with these new plates or whatever you call them. Yeah. And yeah, that works a lot better. Stage 2, this is where we left off, and I was patiently waiting for the Warfare 2 update to come out, and when it finally did, of course the first thing I did was to switch out all of the turrets. On the side I put all the assault turrets, and then on the top the big ass artillery turrets. Of course, as you can see, the firing angles are not exactly ideal. I know that, everyone has pointed that out. It's pretty obvious, but it does look cool, and that's what I really care about. I just wanted to have a lot of turrets, and I don't really care if they can fire everywhere or not. It looks cool, and that's good enough for me. Next version, I finally tackled the bridge and put a proper one in there instead of just a placeholder. Really, I didn't change that much. I just put some windows in there, hollowed it out, and then added a bunch of random greeble on top, like the antennas there. Then I also hollowed out the entire ship, with a staircase here from the, I think, new entrance at the bottom that I also built, and all the way up to the bridge at the top. And in the front I added a few railguns, and a few more thrusters there. When I did hollow out the ship, I basically tried to leave one block of armor on the outside everywhere at least, but also uncover all of the conveyor ports to make it easier to conveyor it up in the next step. That's exactly what I did. I conveyed everything up and yeah, started laying out the interior a bit, putting the first level in there. At this point the outside is pretty much done and it doesn't change anymore. It doesn't look finished, I know, it looks like a toy or something, But really all it needs is a color code, and the rest is all just interior. So next up I put more levels in there and already finished this reactor room here. This is still pretty much like in the final version, just of course colored. Next iteration was the hangar, as well as I think the CIC over here and a medical bay. One more version down the line. I finished the hangar, put a nice door in there, and below it is now crew quarters. For this version, the interior was almost finished really, but I did change a little bit of the exterior here at the front. I thought it was a bit boring that it was so symmetrical, so I just removed this bit here in the bottom and opened it up a bit. Really just to make it slightly asymmetric, because I'd like to give my ships a proper up and down side and not have them be too symmetric. And then finally I put in heavy armor. Everything in red here I switched out to be heavy armor. As you can see, it's quite a lot. It's really basically the entire core of the ship, and it's not just one block on the outside. Sometimes it goes 3-4 blocks deep. Here this everything where I'm in here is all just heavy armor, and in between all that heavy armor, of course, I put a bunch of decoys. Basically the entire front of the ship, everything to around this point is just a big fat block of heavy armor and completely expendable, because frankly the front always takes the most damage. So at this point the outside and the interior were pretty much finished, all the functional parts were in, and the only thing left was really the color code. So that's what I did next. This might not look like much, but don't let it fool you, it's almost finished. And after just a little bit of coloring, it already looks like a proper ship, right? Of course I tried out a few different ones, some more creative, others a bit more mundane. This one here, the blue one, is actually the first one that I made, I think, despite being a bit further down the list here. A bit too dusty, but otherwise I did like the blue. Green and orange, interesting combination, but a bit too contrasty, I think. And this one, well, kind of funny, it screams a bit too much anime for me, so in the end I landed on a rather simple color pattern. And that's basically what I chose for the final version. The only thing I changed is that I removed the yellow blocks, because I wanted the white stripes as the highlights and I didn't want the yellow to detract from it. For the final version I also added a lot of details, of course. Really small details, for example these plates here on the wings, as well as some vents. And of course lots of lights everywhere. They really help to bring a ship alive. I would always recommend to just place a bunch of lights. Make them red, make them blink, flash or whatever. It's always a good idea. And then of course the interior, color that as well, put lights everywhere. I've already shown it in my other video though, so if you want to see that, then go check out that video. Oh, there's one more thing that I changed. It's a bit more impactful, which is I changed the bridge. So the bridge previously looked like this, quite blocky, and now I changed it to be just more flat-ish, kind of like as if you just slapped it and squished it down a bit. And I think that fits a bit better into the ship. Like it doesn't stick out as much anymore. I also moved the antenna a bit further down, also that the bridge would just be a bit flatter and not, stick out of the ship as much. And that's all. That was quite the journey. I hope you enjoyed watching the video just as much as I enjoyed building the ship. And if you liked it, please consider subscribing, there's more to come.